containers over here. How I was talking about that 100 gallons of mash, it's only going to give us 15 gallons of spirit. So that's the leftover, just that spent grain. We give that to a local farmer, and he mixes that in with his cow's food. So,
Happy cows.
yeah, totally thought they were messing with me the first time he told me that. But it's true. It's been distilled, so the alcohol's been extracted, so it's just leftover grain. So yeah, cows can have grain, but still weird to hear. So these right here, that's the 1816 line, was getting shipped down from Indiana. Everything on the left side, that's everything we've made since we've been open. Most of our barrels are 25-gallon barrels as opposed to the 53. A couple of reasons why that is happening. 53 is kind of the industry standard. Luckily, it's not a requirement. But we are in the middle of a huge bourbon boom, so bourbon barrels can be used one time only. Very limited use, very high demand, so there's just a shortage of barrels. Those 25-gallon barrels were all we could get our hands on at the time. Compounding that shortage of barrels, and even more random, there's also a shortage of lumberjacks. So back in 2007, 2008, when the housing market crashed, logging companies were laying off their lumberjacks. No one was building houses. So even though things are a little bit better, they've already moved away, found other jobs. So the type of wood we want for these is American white oak. It's usually harvested in the Ozarks, that Arkansas, Missouri region of the country. So we just don't have the manpower out there. But we are all about research and development here. So we're looking at those smaller barrels as more of an opportunity rather than a hindrance. We're hoping and thinking smaller barrel, more surface area, so that product should age just as well in that minimum of 2 years that it would in maybe 4 or 5 in one of these larger ones. So feeling pretty good about that theory.
Your secondary market, these are done wine.
Yeah, all of these are used barrels. So if they're wrapped in saran wrap, that just means they've been reconditioned. So we ship them off to our cooperage, they chipped out the char, recharred them, ship them back. So we can reuse these for anything but bourbon. We can do a rye whiskey, wheat whiskey, make something up. Yeah, wine can be finished in it. We have a couple full exchanges with some breweries. The terminal kind of catty-cornered across from us, they're aging a cherry milk stout that they're hoping to release around December. Chat Brew already released a black lager, and that's already gone. I didn't get that, so I want that.
I heard tell that you can purchase one sometimes if you're lucky.
Yeah, we'll sell them for $2.99.99. Fair enough. Yeah. One of the better known uses for used bourbon barrels is to finish scotch in. So the bigger distilleries, they just have contracts with the guys over in Scotland to ship them X number of used barrels. We don't have quite the production for that yet. But that's why scotch is usually lighter in flavor, lighter in color. It's that second-hand pull off of the barrel. And Scotland's a colder country, so you're not getting the temperature swing to the hot and cold, making that barrel expand and contract and pull that whiskey in, push it out. That's where you're getting a lot of these big, bold flavors. It's just that barrel breathing in that whiskey. And if it's always cold, it's not going to move that much.
So what percentage are you guys losing to the Angel share?
About 4% a year.
Really?
Yeah. What you're smelling right now is Angel share, just that whiskey evaporating out of it. Flip side, whatever the staves soak up and keep is called Devil's Cut. So you're never going to get the same amount of spirit that you put in that barrel out of it.
And in Texas, we've got a bunch of distilleries, micro distilleries, that are losing about 45% to Angel share.
I guess because how dry it is.
Too dry.
Yeah.
And they didn't count that in their business plan.
We don't have a dryness problem here. We're pretty humid. Yeah. We're pretty good. But yeah, we got that one cracked up and showing you the charring on the inside with that. So charring goes on a scale of 1 to 4, 4 being the darkest, and that's what that is. All of the 1816 barrels are in a number 4 char. We're even kind of experimenting with ours. We have some of ours in 4s, 3s, and 2s. Charring, like pretty much everything we've been talking about, no one just wakes up knowing how to do all this. It's just trial and error, what works best. But back in the day, everything was shipped in barrels, whether it was grains, meat, liquid. So if I was the unlucky distiller that got a fisherman's used barrel, it's going to stink. Pretty sure it's going to make my whiskey taste weird. So I'm trying everything to get that flavor, that odor out of it. Nothing works. Last resort, I'll burn it out. It fixes my problem. And then when I taste my product, I notice that by burning that wood, it's opened it up to give a lot of flavor to my spirit. So I think that's cool. I want to keep doing that. And then if I start selling my product around the world, spend some months on a boat or in a covered wagon, adding to that aging process, day and night, hot and cold. So just built upon until it becomes law. And yeah, when you specify what char you want for yours, typically bourbon is always in a number 4 char, at least 3 or 4. But yeah, you'll just tell your cooper, I want what level of char you want on it. They'll construct the barrel, just lower it down on a little blowtorch, spin around. They make it look so easy, but coopers are awesome. It's like one of those sentences you never thought you would say, but people that make barrels, they're amazing. It's one of the oldest traditions, father-son craftsmanship handed down through generations. But it's an 8-year apprenticeship to be a cooper. So, same amount of time someone's investing in med school, someone else is using that time to learn how to make a barrel. But
Which seems to be a lot more important.
yeah, I think it's worth it. The only machines they use are to cut the length of the staves. Everything else, absolutely handcrafted. So they're picking out these pieces of wood. Notice how they're not all the same width. That's not just cookie cutter stuff. They go and pick them out. They all start out the same width. They sand them down individually to fit together perfectly. Not just to prevent leaks, but also to make a true, consistent 53, 25, whatever gallon barrel every time. So the attention to detail is astronomical. And they don't use glue, they don't use sealant in between the boards. It's just the tension of that wood soaking up the liquid and expanding to lock together.
But where are your barrels made?
We get ours from the Kelvin Cooperage in Louisville. Well, cool. Best part, tasting room. Woohoo!
Starting on your right, you have a mint julep and a pomegranate limeade. Both of those are made with our 1816 Reserve, which is our 90 proof. Then you have a taste of that 90 proof Reserve on its own, a taste of the 1816 cask, which is our 113.6 proof, a Whiskey Ricky, and an Old Fashioned, and both of those are made with the cask. We like suggesting that you try the whiskeys on their own first, so if you want to go that route and start in the middle, I suggest the right, it's our Reserve and 90 proof, and then you kind of ease your way into the cask. But you guys paid for the tour, so really it's up to you. If you want to jump in wherever you want, then that's the right way to do it. There's no wrong way to drink good whiskey, so enjoy. And when you are trying the whiskeys neat, please make sure to give this glass a good swirl and smell. The aroma is such a big part of the flavor of the aged spirit, especially ours. We have a lot of barrel notes, so enjoy.
So I have a working theory
Yes.
that people add things to alcohol because the alcohol is unpalatable by itself.
That is essentially how, like, a lot of cocktails started.
Yeah.
Because
I can't drink gin straight, so let me throw some stuff in there.
a lot of cocktails, especially like anything that's from Prohibition era, you're really making up for the fact that
It was made in somebody's
vodka-
bathtub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, they got some Canadian whiskey and then they cut it in half and then added things like acid to make it burn. But it wasn't really alcohol.
So that's, see, I knew there was a reason behind that theory.
Yeah. The Old Fashioned was invented as a breakfast cocktail.
Well, I drink whiskey for
It's got
breakfast.
orange in it.
So we're finishing up our tour here at the Tennessee Stillhouse, the home of Chattanooga whiskey. And we're in the tasting room, which is not a bar, but it's a tasting room. They're legally only allowed to service at least no more than 3 ounces of whiskey. So what we had was in our flight of whiskey, we had, starting here working this way, we had our 1816 Reserve, which is 90 proof whiskey. We had that neat. Then we had a pomegranate limeade, which uses that whiskey as a base, and then a mint julep, which also uses that whiskey as a base. And over here we had the 1816 cask strength, which is one that I actually have had before, and I still have some at my house. And then this was a Whiskey Ricky, which is like a gin Ricky, but it was made out of whiskey. And it turns out that whiskey was the first spirit of choice to be used in that beverage. And then this is the Old Fashioned, again made with the cask strength Chattanooga whiskey. I just have a really hard time whiskey that is alcohol or a spirit that is good tasting to begin with. You don't need to add things to it to make it taste better. And so generally I found that all these cocktails seem to be invented around the idea or based on the idea that you really couldn't drink the liquor, so you had to add stuff to it to make it palatable. That's my working theory. I'm going to stick to it. All in all, fantastic tour here, the Tennessee Stillhouse and the Chattanooga Whiskey Company. Really, really good whiskey, bourbon-style whiskey, 51% corn, and then a mixture of rye and other things after that. I'm really looking forward to what they're going to be producing at this facility because, like you saw in the video, they're going to be producing stuff with unique malts, unique grains, and really pushing the innovation side in a micro distillery. So with that, I will give Chattanooga Whiskey and the Tennessee Stillhouse 16 thumbs up.